This.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's a pleasure to meet you.
A pleasure to be here.
Just doing this to get an idea of who you are, introduce you to our community, and learn a little bit more about you. So how about we just start off by going a little bit into your background, your education, how you got here.
Yeah, sure. So I started doing political theory in Milan during my PhD. Then I have held a couple of postdocs, one at the University of Eastern Piedmont and one at the University of Genova, where I am based now. And I'm professionally trained in political theory and political philosophy, but I also often dabble in political science more broadly. I've worked on the European Union, the question of European solidarity with Maurizio Ferrera, who is a political scientist in the University of Milan. And on this topic, I also have written a couple of articles as well. My main research interest in political theory is the tradition of political realism, which is an ancient tradition that starts with Thucydides and Machiavelli and Hobbes, at least in the Western side of political theory. But it's also a tradition that has had a big resurgence in contemporary political theory of the Anglophone, in the Anglophone tradition, as a criticism of the mainstream liberal theory of John Rawls and other philosophers. So it's a nice bridge from the classics to contemporary theory.
What was the name of that again? I was writing something else down. Sorry.
No problem. Political realism.
Political realism.
Which is, you know, the Machiavellian idea that the end justifies the mean, although he never really say this. Actually, it's a lot more complicated than this, and this is just like a kind of popular understanding of the view, but it's, yeah.
Okay. And so how did you end up getting involved with AUP and DRAD with Professor Sawyer and everybody here?
Yeah, sure. I've been working recently on linking this political realism tradition to a more contemporary discussion of democracy, and so I thought that it would be very helpful for me to spend some time at the AUP and join the discussion at the Center for Critical Democracy of Sawyer. And also I've been knowing Julian Kalp, who was also kind enough to introduce me into this wonderful work group. So yeah, this also links to my more contemporary work, which is trying to give a realistic justification of democracy based on Machiavelli's view of republic and the advantages that republics have over authoritarian regimes.
Okay.
And I actually also presented at the series of the Center of Critical Theory a paper on this topic. I think it was before summer, maybe in May, perhaps. I'm not sure right now the exact date, but yeah, I've been already joining the discussion, and then now I plan to stay until December, because I'll be teaching a course, Ethical Inquiries, which is an introduction to moral philosophy and ethical thought, where I will be covering the classic normative tradition in ethics, so virtue ethics, utilitarianism, and the ontological theory, a little bit of meta-ethics, so trying to see whether the skeptical attitude towards ethical beliefs is warranted, or how we can answer the skeptical challenge to the existence of moral truth. And finally, I'll be holding some seminars in this course, tackling some more public issue that spring from ethical dilemma, things like abortion, gun control, even some more contemporary stuff on feminism, racism, and all this kind of things.
Okay, that's actually really interesting. And I want to learn so much more about everything that you've just said, actually. But how does all of what you have just mentioned, this broad set of seminars, of courses, and everything, how does that all lead into what the center is doing, particularly with DRAD, and how does, with the focus on our diverse set of radicalization, how do all of those fit into that, and how have all of your focus, your papers, everything that you've done help you analyze all of those in the context of radicalization?
Yeah, so more than the course I'm teaching, this links into my research on a realistic justification of democracy, which I was talking about before. So very briefly, the thought is that democratic regimes have much higher resilience than autocratic regimes, which means that they are less stable, actually, because they change a lot more. They fluctuate into their kind of government, kind of policies that they pursue. They have this very huge variance of forms, but they are resilient. They're resilient in virtue of this. So they always bounce back when some external or internal shock comes about that threaten their ability to subsist through time. They can flexibly rearrange to answer such crisis. And on the other side, you can think of autocratic regimes that are as being more stable because they fluctuate a lot less. They are more strict into the range of policies and the range of government that they are able to pursue. But this makes them much more vulnerable when some external dramatic challenges, dramatic change arise that threaten their normal operating ability. And this actually is an idea that links to a lot of the contemporary debate on resilient system, on complex adaptive system. But I started working on this from a very nice intuition from Machiavelli, because he was analyzing Rome's history, and he was thinking specifically of how Hannibal was defeated by Rome. Because Hannibal, you surely know, comes from the Alps and enter Roman territory, and is he enjoyed a dramatic advantage. Rome was unable to repel him because the legions were in disarray. They had to gain time to reorganize. So they give the power to this dictator, which was Fabius Maximus. The dictator is not a bad word in ancient Latin. It just means that he enjoyed the military command, supreme military command at the time. And the interesting thing is that he was a very passive and risk-averse person. So he was known to play for time and use guerrilla tactic to slow the advantage of Hannibal. And he was perfect, the perfect leader at the time. But then the times changed because Rome gained the advantage, and it was now the time to repel Hannibal. And he was no longer the right person to lead the counteroffensive, right? So the Senate dismissed him and put in charge instead Scipio. who was a much more aggressive general and who was able to take risks, lead the counteroffensive, and ultimately defeat Carthage. And Machiavelli, had this wonderful idea, and he says something like, well, if Rome was not a republic, and if this Fabius Maximum was the king of Rome, then Rome would have lost the war, because it wouldn't have been able to flexibly adapt to the new time, to the new demands of the crisis. And this, I think, is what I want to play with in the idea of a crucial virtue of democratic regimes that is not so much appreciated, at least in current democratic theory, which, contrary to the realist approach, emphasizes more the moral virtues of democracy, like its ability to foster equality, respect, liberty, and all these kinds of values. Which I'm not saying that they are not important, they are obviously important, but there is also this kind of key realist advantage, its resilience, its ability to survive crisis and flexibly readapt. That is something that it's worth emphasizing a lot more than now it's done.
Okay, that's really an interesting perspective that I don't think I mean, it's not that I don't think, I haven't heard a lot about, in terms of where, most standard thought is that democracies are just more resilient than an autocracy. And that's just kind of taken as kind of a standard, I think, right now, at least from where, the perspectives I've been given. And so to take that and put that into, a current perspective, and how do you, I guess, see that playing out within, the spectrum of the European Union?
Mm-hmm. Well, the European Union is a good example, because in a sense, it's a political union that is not really yet a political union. So, and what it lacks precisely, I think, is this ability to take political decisions, right? There's often a debate about a lack, not really a lack, but a democratic deficit of the European Union. But what I want to emphasize more in my work is a political deficit. So a deficit, a lack, flaw in its ability to take binding collective decision. And this is an essential function of politics that is currently lacking in the European Union. And it's essential for the ability to be a resilient system, because politics is precisely the way in which societies adapt to change, because political circumstances change all the time. And if a system doesn't have the ability to change itself, to react to new contingencies, then it is doomed to fail. So the European Union suffer a very lack of politics, which translates into a very lack of resilience. And maybe in a more democratic European Union would have more political power, not less political power, and its own resilience.
Could you just repeat that last sentence for me? You froze for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So a more democratic European Union would have a more effective ability to take political decision, and thus a more developed ability to be resilient and sustain through the many subsequent crises that recurrently challenge its own ability to subsist through time.
Absolutely. And I guess then my final question, leading this back once again to DRAD, would be that this resilience will obviously help in quelling radicalization from all angles.
Yes, yes, that's the thought and the hope.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
Okay, this has been excellent. I won't take up any more of your time. This is right on the money for what I wanted to get. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
a
doing
lot.
this. It's great to get to know you a little bit. I'm very much looking forward to being on campus and seeing you around and getting to know you a little bit
Yeah.
better, and working with you throughout the semester. I think, I guess, just a welcome to the area, welcome to AUP, from myself and everybody else that I work with, and we all can't wait to get to know you a little bit better.
Thanks, likewise.